know what I am realizing about being in relationships with people? And look. I'm just a messenger, okay? I don't like this either. But being in healthy relationships with real connection means risking rejection over and over and over again, forever and always. If you want your relationship to actually be real and healthy, you have to do it. And it's really fucking scary, and that's why I think a lot of people just don't. We get into fully fledged relationships wearing masks, trying to keep those masks on for the rest of our lives, or we eventually drop the masks, and then either we realize that they aren't who they said they were, or they realize that we aren't who they said we are, and then the relationship ends because neither of us fucking signed up for that. And or we like have all these weird little manipulative like control tactics to try and avoid rejection or any kind of hurt at all. And if we want relationships that like actually mean something, where we actually get to be loved for who we are and actually have trust, then you really have no choice but to risk rejection and hurt in a million small ways for the rest of our lives. And this goes for like friendships, romantic relationships, new relationships, and old relationships. You know, I'm learning this in across the board right now. Not only do I feel like I'm being required to practice not picking up the mask, not holding in what I actually think and have to say, even though I care about the person liking me and not wanting to get rejected, but I'm also witnessing it in the world, what happens when you do. When you continue masking, when you continue silencing yourself, hiding yourself, not having the hard conversations, not handling things ethically. And that might feel like somewhat more comfortable in the moment to contort yourself into what you think the other person wants, or to hide parts of yourself, or to lie or be secretive. That might feel more comfortable in the moment, but what happens is it guarantees the downfall of that relationship at some point in the future if you continue to do that. If you continue to choose that, you know, it's like we're trying to play the long game here in our relationships. At least I am. And so I'm looking at that, and I keep choosing the short-term discomfort, the risking of rejection for who I really am and what I really feel, in exchange for, one, just the weeding out of people that aren't actually like about you, as hurtful as that may be in the moment, and that growing connection and trust over time that I think feels so much more fulfilling. And when you gamble that rejection and then the person you're gambling with comes back with acceptance and love, it feels so amazing because they're actually accepting and loving you for who you really are, for what you really think, for what your needs actually are. And for me, I feel like this mostly gets like really triggered in like new relationships because you're like still learning the person and they're still learning you, and the chances of rejection feel so much higher. But this applies to like old relationships too. Like my partner and I have recently, like I haven't like had a fear of rejection with him in like so long because we've been together for so long, and he, like, we really know each other. Like I have for so long have just been myself, and I say whatever the fuck pops in my brain or whatever I'm feeling. I ask for what I need. Like I thought that wasn't a thing anymore, but turns out it is, because we are playing with you know, our relationship dynamic and different things that we want. To be incredibly vague, there's a lot of growth being asked of us in this moment, and we are both dealing with a lot of uncomfortable feelings and having to communicate those uncomfortable feelings and navigate. And then when you discover things about yourself and what you want, and having to communicate those to the other person, even though may not be what they want, maybe it is, maybe it's not, that's really fucking scary too, because then if you discover that what you want is different, now it may come to the fact that you have to reevaluate this relationship that you've had for so long that you have projected into the future, and that's fucking scary. Thankfully, so far, things are lining up, and that's great, but every time we have to have one of these conversations, it's scary that we might discover that we want different things. So not only is it about who you are and what you need, sometimes it's really about where you want to go, where they want to go. Is that the same place? Or is it at least compatible? Can we coexist on that path? And I think a lot of people, if not most people, would rather just avoid doing this work altogether in an attempt to just like hold it all together and keep things as they are, because we don't want to lose our relationships. But when you do that, you're like ignoring your soul's calling, you're forfeiting both of your guys' like access to your full potential and stunting your growth. You're essentially a plant that has outgrown its pot, and you would rather lop off a limb and force yourself to fit in that pot still than to uproot anything and be put into a new, eventually more comfortable pot, either together or separate, which is ultimately what's actually best for you and them. But I will say that choosing to operate like this, like when you haven't consciously been, because it's like I don't feel like I've been like incredibly fake my whole life, but I definitely have like watered myself down or bit my tongue a lot throughout my life, tried to just like be more pleasing, not rock the boat, like, and to be fair, a lot of this is usually like survival mechanisms from trauma and stuff like that, but eventually you have to choose a different way if you want like real connection and to be loved for who you are, right? And have relationships that are more relaxed, less draining. You don't feel like you have to be on for them. Like, if you want that, then you have to start choosing differently. And fuck if that isn't just like the most raw, vulnerable, uncomfortable feeling. But I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna fucking lie. Trying to change the way you operate in any way, really, not even just this way. It's like, it's so uncomfortable, and you just have to like live in it until this becomes a normal way of operating, until maybe the discomfort becomes less, because I'm imagining that this is still like, it's still going to kind of be there always, but I think that we grow bigger around it and becomes more of a pinprick instead of this like all-consuming raw nerve of a feeling. And here's the thing, ultimately you're going to be forced to do this work eventually, because that's why we're here, to experience being human in life and sensation, and to expand and grow and all that shit. So we can either surrender to that, or we can fight and cling and make the process even more uncomfortable than it actually needs to be for the end result to ultimately be the same thing. Because what I have learned is that life might allow me to continue on my bullshit for a little bit, but eventually I'm going to be forced to deal with it. And we can continue the same lesson over and over and over again as many times as we need to, but I personally get sick of that after a while and would like a new, different lesson. I also would like to maybe not make my life hell in the process of repeating the lesson over and over and over again. So yeah, that's chapter I don't even know at this point of things I'm learning along the way.